Apart from the purely linguistic forms aimed at using polite inflections used throughout the conversations out of courtesy, in my view, the expression "I'm sorry" is merely a useless expression. It is unnecessary primarily because it never addresses the issue for which we want to apologize. Nor does it imply that we have thought carefully about it. This is the focal point. To put it bluntly, when I say "I'm sorry", I tend to be cognitively and emotionally focused, almost entirely, on the very act of apologizing only. This focus does not allow for mindful, introspective, critical, and deductive reasoning about the reasons why I am apologizing, and most importantly, about their objectivity. The phrase is, in fact, a mere verbal reflex, something we utter out of habit, politeness, or a perceived but not really deeply understood sense of guilt. De facto, the very act of apologizing rarely signifies understanding, and that is the real problem. We apologize, but without a clear understanding of the reason why we apologize. We imagine it has a moral weight, of course, which by reflex makes us experience the emotional sensation that we are being moral, perhaps, understanding minds, maybe, when in truth it is often the lightest possible response to the discomfort of having done something wrong. So what is and where is the issue here? I will even add, what and where is the danger? Well, the issue and the danger consist in the fact that in most cases, every "I'm sorry" is not really something that emerges from a solid understanding. Consequently, it is hard to trust the possibility that understanding is the cognitive event that will follow the apologies. Suppose we have indeed committed certain mistakes for which we truly want to apologize. In that case, our intellectual responsibility should be to reflect retrospectively on those mistakes and understand what led us to make them. It is this process of sober reflection, not the apology itself, that embodies genuine remorse. What follows is that if such understanding comes, there is no need to say "I'm sorry" at all, since presumably we will act accordingly. This implies that actual responsibility is not linguistic, it is a metacognitive, therefore by reflex behavioral pattern. Apologizing is too often an indirect admission that we know we did something wrong, let's put it this way, but have done little of nothing to understand why it was objectively bad what we did. In such an ambiguous cognitive state, how can we possibly even know whether the wrongness that has been committed was de facto, ethically and objectively wrongness? In most cases, especially today, considering the context of intelligence decline characterized by a disastrous state of average attention span, growing mental health issues, and generally increasingly confusing levels of information overload. We reach for "I'm sorry" merely because it offers temporary relief, certainly not introspective, metacognitive understanding and mature self-awareness at all. In fact, it softens moral tension. It signals civility. And sometimes it even earns forgiveness. But none of those things necessarily entail cognitive growth and emotional intelligence. In fact, saying "I'm sorry" too quickly can function as a pseudo-moral shield against self-examination, which is just like the constant assertion of love as the answer, and the similar superficial slogans, a too common convenient shallow substitute for the much harder but ethically, morally, and intellectually responsible labor of metacognitive self-reflection. And in case we haven't done anything objectively wrong, apologizing is utterly nonsensical. The performative apology has become a ritual of guilt, untethered from reason. Indeed, we tend to apologize too easily and with little to no background reasoning about such an action at all. We apologize for emotions, for existing, for imagining that someone might be offended, just in case someone takes personally what we wish to say. If we look carefully at the patterns of modern behaviors, including ours, we can notice how we use a lot of preventive apologies as verbal and behavioral tools that are unconsciously perceived as natural parts of our sense of courtesy, politeness, and civility, but in reality they constitute an unnecessary surplus of pseudo-morality that often borders the territory of falsehood, virtue signaling, hypocrisy, and fakeness at large. The value of being kind should not impair by any means reasonableness. Yet we often confuse being kind with being prone to apologize. In doing so, we allow out the moral content of apology itself. To apologize meaningfully, if we really have to, perhaps we should begin by refusing to apologize reflectively. Let's discard "I'm sorry" and the go-to emotional currency of social life. Instead, let us speak with clarity about what we did, why we did it, and what we have learned and understood from acknowledging our not exactly good actions or mistakes. Ultimately, an in-depth understanding, not an easy, cheap, and quick apology, is the wiser way to establish reasonableness and intelligent mutual reconciliation.